Today we are talking about what is resource capacity planning. Over the years, working with different organisations, there was always one question that kept being asked. Do we have enough people with the right skills to get our projects done? And this boils down to a simple question. Is there a gap between your resource capacity and your required capacity? The capacity of your resources is all the people you have available for work. Required capacity is the amount of people you need for your current work now and any new work you're looking to approve. By comparing the two, you can understand your capacity gap. This tells you if you have too many resources in your organisation or not enough resources. A shortage of resource is normally due to approving too many projects or having an imbalance in your resource skills, whereas an excess of resource is normally due to things like projects being cancelled, work being delayed, or work finishing earlier than expected. You need to understand your resource capacity so you can make the right decisions about what projects or work you can do, or if you need to hire or retrain people. Resource capacity planning answers three fundamental questions. Can you take on additional work with the resources you have? This is a big question leadership teams always ask. Secondly, do you have the necessary resources to complete your current work? This is a project-oriented view and is based on your current commitments. And finally, if not, do you need to change things around? If capacity planning shows that you have a gap between what you want to achieve and the resources you have, then you can look at different options to solve the problems. You could choose to adjust when work is happening to free up resources, or perhaps hold or cancel work. Another option may be to hire more people, or perhaps reallocate people from lower priority work. Finally, you could choose to reskill or retrain people to close the gap. One question that is always asked is what is the difference between capacity planning and resource planning? Capacity planning looks at the organisational level. It's a planning process to help you determine if your organisation has enough people to get your work done. It does this by comparing the resource demands of your projects and work to the resource capacity of your teams and skill sets. And this is a really important point. Capacity planning does not concern itself with individual resources, whereas resource planning coordinates and plans actual people. So it matches up actual resources with projects and work according to the skills needed, which lets project and product managers know which resources they can allocate work to and when. And the key metric in resource planning is resource utilisation. Another thing to consider when comparing resource planning to capacity planning is the time frame over which each operates. A resource schedule covers off what is happening soonest so people understand what they are working on over the coming days or weeks. Capacity planning takes a longer range view, perhaps as far out as 6 to 12 months. It really depends on your timescales for hiring and onboarding resources, or how far in advance you need to make project commitments. The middle ground is where resource planning happens. This is where managers are making decisions about who should work on what projects. So if we're then trying to lay out a capacity planning process, it would run something like this. First, you want to establish your teams and assign your resources into the teams. You then want to calculate the resource capacity of your teams. And the really important point here is that you need to take account of things like vacations, time off, or any business as usual activities that people have to do, as this will all reduce their capacity for work. Then you want to work out what skills are needed for each project or product, and how much work is required. Next, you want to prioritise your work, and this is a key step but often overlooked. Then finally, allocate your resource capacity based on those priorities. The reason we allocate resources based on priorities is because you want to allocate your resources to the most valuable work first. Eventually, you will hit a point where you run out of resources and your prioritised list of projects will have a cut-off. Things below the cut-off line are unlikely to happen unless you adjust project timings, resource levels, or cancel other work. As you can see, capacity planning has a lot of moving parts, and it is an iterative process which seeks to find the best outcome for your portfolio, people and projects. As the number of projects and resources grows, the complexity increases to such a level that a tool becomes the only realistic way to manage the process. So if you are looking for a tool to help with your capacity planning, head over to clue.com and sign up for a free trial of our resource planning tool.